Extinction Protocol. They called it an unfortunate incident. That's how the Galactic Conclave described it in their official statement. Just an unfortunate incident on the edges of charted space, a regrettable loss, but nothing to disrupt the careful balance of interstellar politics. What they didn't say was that Nova Haven had been home to 3 million humans. Teachers, engineers, farmers, doctors, children. People who had traveled 27 light years from Earth to build something new under alien skies. Now they were ash, their colony a smoking crater visible from orbit. No warning, no declaration, just silence, then fire from above that turned mountains to glass. Admiral Marcus Chen stood at the viewport of the TSS Indomitable, staring at the holographic display of what remained of Nova Haven. His face remained impassive, but his knuckles had turned white where he gripped the railing. "Play it again," he ordered. The final transmission from Nova Haven flickered to life. Governor Eliza Santos, her face illuminated by emergency lighting, spoke with forced calm as sirens wailed in the background. "Unknown vessels have entered orbit. No response to hails. They've begun atmospheric insertions and..." Her eyes widened as a distant rumble grew louder. Energy signatures unlike anything we've. The transmission cut to static. Chen turned to the assembled commanders of Earth's defense forces, 23 men and women representing every branch of humanity's military might. They had watched the recording 17 times now. No one spoke. "The conclave is calling for restraint," Chen finally said. "They want an investigation. They want diplomacy." He paused. "The president disagrees." A murmur passed through the room. "Extinction Protocol has been authorized," Chen continued. "Full mobilization. Every ship, every reserve, every private military contractor, every retrofitted civilian vessel capable of carrying weapons." Commander Ilara Hayes felt her heart rate increase. Extinction Protocol wasn't a military operation. It was a statement of intent, a declaration that humanity would not go quietly into the night. "Sir," Admiral Yamamoto spoke up, "the conclave will see this as an escalation. They'll try to block passage through the regulated jump points." Chen's smile was cold. "Let them try." Within 72 hours, Earth's orbital dockyards hummed with activity unseen since the Martian Independence War. Ships that had been mothballed for decades were reactivated. Civilian freighters were fitted with military-grade shield generators and weapon systems. Corporations donated their private fleets. Colony worlds redirected their defense forces. Hayes stood in the observation deck of Luna Command, watching as ships of all shapes and sizes formed up in Earth orbit. Her new command, the battle cruiser Nemesis, floated among them, its recently upgraded railguns gleaming in the sunlight. "Impressive, isn't it?" A voice came from behind her. Hayes turned to find Admiral Chen approaching. She snapped to attention. "At ease, Commander." Chen joined her at the viewport. "Your grandfather helped build the first interstellar colony ship. What was it called?" "The Horizon, sir. He was chief engineer." Chen nodded. "And your sister was Nova Haven's head of agriculture." Hayes stiffened. "Yes, sir. Mira and her family relocated there 5 years ago." "That's why I requested you for this mission," Chen said quietly. "I need someone who understands what we've lost. Someone who won't hesitate." Hayes swallowed hard. "With respect, sir, you won't find hesitation in any human who's seen what happened to Nova Haven." "Good." Chen handed her a datapad. "Intelligence has identified the primary aggressor, the Vorzeth Dominion. They've denied involvement, of course. Claimed it was rogue elements or pirates using stolen technology." Hayes scanned the information. The Vorzeth were a technologically advanced species known for their territorial expansion. They'd had minor skirmishes with human colonies before, but nothing approaching this level of aggression. "Their denial doesn't match the evidence," Hayes said. "The energy signatures from the attack are consistent with Vorzeth plasma cannons, and these movement patterns." She pointed to a tactical display. "This isn't pirates. This is military precision." "Exactly. which is why your first target will be their military command station in the Proxima sector. Chen's voice was matter-of-fact, as if he were discussing weather patterns. The Nemesis will lead a strike force of 50 ships. Fast insertion, overwhelming force. Hayes looked back at the armada forming above Earth. 50 ships seems excessive for a single command station. That's just your battle group, Commander. The full fleet is 700,000 vessels. Hayes nearly dropped the datapad. 700,000. Every ship humanity can muster, Chen confirmed. From dreadnoughts to converted mining vessels. The President was quite clear. We will not allow the extinction of our species to begin with Nova Haven. 3 days later, Hayes stood on the bridge of the Nemesis as the massive human fleet prepared to depart. Ship after ship activated their drives, blue-white energy flaring across Earth orbit like new stars being born. All systems green. Commander, her XO, Lieutenant Commander Takashi, reported. The battle group is formed up and ready to jump on your order. Hayes nodded, staring at the tactical display. 700,000 ships, organized into battle groups and strike forces, each with specific targets across Vorzath space. It wasn't just a military operation. It was a statement. Commander, incoming transmission from the Galactic Conclave, the communications officer announced. On screen, Hayes ordered. The holographic display flickered, revealing the stern features of Conclave Mediator Teleth, a member of the ancient Uldurian species known for their diplomatic corps. Commander Hayes, the alien's voice was smooth but carried unmistakable tension. The Conclave demands that Earth stand down its fleet immediately. This display of military force is a violation of 17 different treaties and... Mediator, Hayes interrupted. With respect, where was the Conclave when Nova Haven burned? Where were the treaty invocations when 3 million humans were reduced to ash? Teleth's expression hardened. That incident is under investigation. If the Vorzath are found responsible, appropriate sanctions will. Sanctions. Hayes laughed, the sound hollow. 3 million dead, and you offer sanctions. Commander, I urge you to reconsider this course of action. The Vorzath Dominion spans 12 star systems. They have military capabilities that we've just seen demonstrated on our colony, Hayes finished. Message received, Mediator. Now here's ours. Humanity will not negotiate while our people's ashes are still warm. We're coming for answers, and if necessary, retribution. She gestured for the communication to be cut. Set course for the Proxima jump point, she ordered, and inform all ships. Extinction protocol is now active. As the Nemesis engaged its drive, Hayes thought of her sister Mira, of the messages they'd exchanged just weeks before, of Mira's children who would never grow up, of an entire world silenced in hours. The jump engines hummed, creating a tunnel through space-time. Around them, 700,000 vessels, from massive dreadnoughts to converted civilian ships, prepared to make the same journey. Not for conquest, not for territory, for justice. The first engagement occurred at the Vorzath border outpost Kelxer 9. The human strike force dropped out of FTL directly into attack position, weapons hot before the Vorzath defense grid could even register their presence. Hayes watched from the Nemesis as the first salvos tore through the outpost's shields like paper. Minimal resistance, Commander, Takashi reported. Their weapon systems appear to be powering up, but slowly. They weren't expecting us. Of course not, Hayes replied. They thought we'd bow to the Conclave's demands for restraint. Typical. She leaned forward. Open a channel to the outpost. The communications officer nodded, and moments later, a startled Vorzath officer appeared on screen. His chidnous faceplates shifted in what Hayes recognized as extreme agitation. This is Commander Ilara Hayes of the Terran Defense Force. Your outpost is surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. The Vorzath chittered rapidly in his native tongue before the translator caught up. By what authority do you attack a sovereign Vorzath installation? The Conclave will. The Conclave isn't here, Hayes cut him off. We are. And we want answers about Nova Haven. The Vorzath's compound eyes widened. The human colony. We had nothing to. Save it for interrogation, Hayes interrupted. You have 30 seconds to comply before we resume fire. The outpost surrendered 27 seconds later. Similar scenes played out across Vorzath space as the human armada struck with coordinated precision. Military bases, shipyards, defense platforms, all targeted simultaneously by overwhelming force. It wasn't a war of attrition. It was a show of absolute resolve. By the time the Vorzath High Command realized what was happening, a third of their military infrastructure was already under human control. As reports flooded in from across the front, Admiral Chen contacted Hayes from the fleet flagship. Excellent work, Commander. The Nemesis battle group has secured all primary objectives. Thank you, sir. Resistance has been lighter than expected. Chen nodded. The same across all sectors. But we've uncovered something troubling. The data cores from 3 separate Vorzath installations contain references to something called Coalition Directive 7. It appears the attack on Nova Haven wasn't a Vorzath operation alone. Hayes felt cold anger settling in her stomach. A coalition. Who else was involved? We're still piecing it together, but it suggests a coordinated effort by multiple species. The question is, why target Nova Haven specifically? What made that colony a priority for elimination? Hayes thought of her sister again, of the agricultural breakthroughs she'd been working on, of the new irrigation systems designed for worlds humans had never set foot on before. Sir, she said slowly, my sister's last message mentioned successful crop adaptation trials. They'd modified Earth crops to grow in alien soil compositions without terraforming. Chen's expression darkened. Technology that would have allowed human expansion without the limitations of terraforming. A threat, Hayes finished, to species who see expansionism as their right. Continue the interrogations, Chen ordered. I want names. I want locations. Every species involved in this coalition. As the human fleet pushed deeper into Vorzath territory, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The species that many had dismissed as aggressive but ultimately harmless had unleashed a force unlike anything seen in centuries. Not a war fleet, but a reckoning. 700,000 ships moving as one, implacable and determined. The message was clear. Humanity would not be extinguished quietly, and those who tried would face the full fury of a species with nothing left to lose. Reckoning. On the 12th day of the campaign, the Nemesis arrived at Jorel, the Vorzath homeworld. Hayes stood on the bridge, watching as hundreds of human vessels moved into position around the planet. The Vorzath defense fleet had been systematically dismantled over the past week, leaving their homeworld exposed. Main Vorzath government complex identified, Takashi reported. Their planetary shields are active, but weakening at grid points 7 through 11. Estimate 3 minutes until breakthrough. Hayes nodded. Prepare landing crafts. I want boots on the ground the moment those shields fail. Commander, the communications officer called. Incoming transmission from the Vorzath High Command. They're requesting terms of surrender. A murmur passed through the bridge crew. No one had expected capitulation so quickly. On screen, Hayes ordered. High Commander Kelzax appeared, his usually imposing frame somehow diminished. The chitinous plates around his facial region had dulled, a sign of extreme stress in Vorzath physiology. Commander Hayes, his translator conveyed. The Vorzath Dominion formally surrenders to Earth forces. We request an immediate cessation of hostilities. Hayes kept her expression neutral. Surrender accepted, but this isn't over, High Commander. We want the truth about Nova Haven. The complete truth. Of course, Kelzax's compound eyes shifted nervously. All relevant information will be provided, but you must understand, the Vorzath were not the architects of this unfortunate incident. So I've heard. Tell me about Coalition Directive 7. Kelzax's plates clicked rapidly in surprise. You? How did you? We've been thorough in our intelligence gathering, Hayes replied coldly. Names. Now. 2 hours later, Hayes stood in the ornate chamber of the Vorzeth High Command alongside Admiral Chen, who had transported down from the flagship. Before them, displayed on a massive holographic projection, were the names and details of 7 species who had formed what they called the Containment Coalition. The Vorzeth, the Drulk Imperium, the Xanthar Collective, Chen read aloud. All middle-tier powers in the Conclave hierarchy. All species with aggressive expansion policies, Hayes added. All species who've had territorial disputes with human colonies. And all species who feared what we represented, Chen finished. According to these files, Nova Haven wasn't chosen randomly. It was specifically targeted because of your sister's agricultural breakthroughs. Hayes felt a fresh wave of grief and rage. They murdered 3 million people because they were afraid of our farming techniques. Not just techniques, Chen corrected. According to their own assessment, your sister's work would have allowed humans to colonize worlds previously considered uninhabitable without extensive terraforming. Worlds that these species had claimed but couldn't yet settle. So they eliminated the threat. Hayes' voice was flat. Exactly. And they expected Earth to respond through conclave channels, through diplomacy and investigation committees that would drag on for decades. They never anticipated. 700,000 ships, Hayes finished. The door to the chamber slid open, and a human intelligence officer entered, their expression grim. Admiral, Commander, we've recovered something from the Vorzeth secure archives. I think you need to see this immediately. The officer transferred a data chip to the holographic system. A new image flickered to life, a recording of a meeting between representatives of all 7 coalition species. A Drulk speaker, identifiable by their translucent skin and multiple eye stalks, addressed the gathering. The human expansion cannot be allowed to continue unchecked. Their adaptability poses an existential threat to established galactic order. The Nova Haven facility must be eliminated before their agricultural breakthrough can be implemented on other worlds. A Vorzeth representative, Kelzax himself, responded. The humans will protest to the conclave. Let them, the Drulk replied dismissively. By the time any investigation concludes, the evidence will be ash, and if they retaliate militarily, they will find themselves facing sanctions from the conclave itself. Either way, their expansion is halted. The recording ended, leaving the chamber in silence. They never expected us to bypass the conclave completely, Chen said quietly. They never expected 700,000 ships. Hayes turned to the intelligence officer. Where are the representatives in this recording now? Most have been captured during our operations. 3 remain at large in Drulk and Xanthar space. Not for long, Chen promised. The fleet is already adjusting course. As the human armada expanded its operations to include the other coalition members, the Galactic Conclave called an emergency session. Mediator Teleth again attempted to contact Hayes, who now commanded the ground operations on Jorel. Commander, the Conclave demands an immediate audience with Earth's leadership. This military action has gone far beyond proportional response and threatens galactic stability. Hayes looked at the alien diplomat, noting the fear poorly hidden behind diplomatic language. The time for audiences was before Nova Haven burned. Now is the time for justice. This isn't justice, Teleth protested. It's vengeance on a scale that threatens to ignite a galactic war. No, Hayes corrected. It's accountability, something the Conclave seems to have forgotten. Did you know about Coalition Directive 7? Did the Conclave approve the elimination of a human colony? Teleth's silence was damning. I thought so, Hayes continued. The Conclave either knew and did nothing, or was too ineffective to know what its members were planning. Either way, humanity will no longer entrust our security to an institution that failed us so completely. Within 3 weeks, all 7 coalition members had surrendered unconditionally to Earth forces. The fleet had suffered minimal casualties. not because of superior technology, but because of the sheer overwhelming force brought to bear. 700,000 ships had proven to be an argument none could counter. In the aftermath, Earth presented the Galactic Conclave with its terms. The coalition members would pay reparations for Nova Haven, to be used to establish a memorial colony at the site. The conspirators who had planned and executed the attack would face Earth justice, and most significantly, humanity would no longer recognize the Conclave's authority in matters of human security. Hayes stood in the rebuilt garden of what had once been Nova Haven's administrative complex. Admiral Chen approached, his uniform immaculate despite the planet's reddish dust. "The last of the conspirators has been captured," he informed her. The Drelk Primarch was hiding in an uncharted system beyond their territory. Hayes nodded, kneeling to touch the soil. "My sister would have appreciated the irony. They destroyed this world to prevent human expansion, and instead triggered the most rapid military deployment in our history. The galaxy has noticed," Chen said. "We've received formal recognition requests from 17 previously neutral species. They want defensive alliances with Earth. And the Conclave, still protesting our actions, but without conviction. They've begun internal investigations into their own failings." Chen paused. "The President has asked me to convey her appreciation for your service. You're being promoted to Admiral. The Nemesis battle group will be expanded to a full fleet under your command." Hayes looked up at the sky, where the outline of human ships could still be seen in orbit. Not as many as before. Most had returned to their regular duties, but enough to remind everyone what humanity was capable of when provoked. "What's our mission now?" she asked. "Deterrence," Chen replied simply. The President was clear. "Never again will we allow what happened here. The fleet remains mobilized. The shipyards continue production. From now on, humanity defends its own." As they walked back toward the landing craft, Hayes stopped at a newly erected memorial. 3 million names etched in earth stone, brought across the stars to commemorate those lost. "We should have been here sooner," she said quietly, finding her sister's name among the millions. "We're here now," Chen replied, "and the galaxy has learned a fundamental truth about humanity." "What's that?" "That we don't start fights, but we do finish them." Chen gestured to the sky. 700,000 ships, not for conquest, not for territory. For our people. As they departed Nova Haven, news spread throughout human space. The coalition had been dismantled, justice had been served, and humanity had established itself not just as a species of explorers and innovators, but as a force that would defend its own with unwavering resolve. Across the stars, the message was received. One colony had fallen, and in response, humanity had risen, unified and determined to ensure it would be the last. The species that many had dismissed as newcomers to the galactic stage had demonstrated in 3 short weeks what others had failed to understand for centuries. Earth's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its numbers.